And then all you really need is either a North Carolina or a Georgia, really 15 and 16 electoral votes. Those are interchangeable.
Okay, so first off, it's way too early to be making this video. I know that.
If it's not too soon for the candidates, it's not too soon for the media.
Without head-to-head polling, it's extremely difficult to know whether Trump can be bested. As it now stands, we have no candidate, not even a short list of clear contenders. Still, we do have state-by-state approval data for Trump, and with that, we can get some sense of where he will be most vulnerable in the 2020 election. With a little quick math, we can also determine the most likely path to victory for Democrats and answer questions like, can the Democrats win, how can they win, and how likely is that? So CNN did a 2020 forecast, and it was honestly really stupid.
So you can win in Arizona, and then maybe you can win with Beto O'Rourke down in Texas, right?
Basically, CNN just decided to make up regional paths to victory based on pretty much nothing. They used no polling data, just whatever nonsense they could make up to sound plausible. Obviously, the Democrats are very unlikely to win states like Arizona or Texas in 2020, and my mind will be blown if they actually win both. CNN also used the 2016 election map as a starting place, just looking at the states the Dems would have to flip in order to win. That's a pretty amateur approach. I mean, it assumes that Trump won't flip any states of his own, instead creating a false sense that the next election in some way builds on the last one. But it doesn't. Winning last time doesn't make winning next time any easier. What does win you a state is your ability to drive supporters to the poll, your ability to win over undecided voters, and generally your popularity relative to the opposing candidate. The chances that Trump will not be the Republican candidate for 2020 are fairly remote. We can bet with some confidence that he will run, but who he will be running against is still very unclear. So if we want to know anything about what might happen in 2020, we need to look at data that's just about Trump himself. And the best available, at least for the time being, is his approval ratings in each state. For the purposes of this video, I'll be using the data put together by Morning Consult. But keep in mind, these projections do have their limitations. For one reason, because approval ratings change, and we're still a long way out. To demonstrate, here are Trump's net approval ratings per state since Morning Consult began tracking in January of 2017. The green states are where he has high approval ratings, whereas the reddish-orange states means he has low approval ratings. The darker, the more extreme the sentiment, and the whiter the state is, the more neutral it is. In other words, the more likely it is to be a swing state. The most recent data comes from October of 2018. Here we see very high net approval ratings in states like Wyoming, where his approval rate is 64% and his disapproval rate is 32%, meaning his net approval rate is plus 32 points. In Hawaii, on the other hand, his approval rating is as low as 33% and his disapproval is up at 63, giving him a net approval of minus 30 points. In 11 states, Trump's approval rating is plus 15 or greater. Winning all of those states would give him 76 electoral college points. Whereas in 12 states and 1 district, together representing 170 electoral college points, Trump's approval rating is at minus 15 or worse. We can generally consider these fairly safe Democratic states. But do note that New Mexico actually ranks in here. That's surprising, and it will be interesting to see if that actually holds. In the meantime, let it be a reminder to take all this with a grain of salt. Next, let's add to our map the states that lean towards Trump by a spread of under 15 points. There are 14 states on this list, representing 168 electoral college points. You might notice that with the exception of Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, these are all typically red states. More on that in a second, but first let's add the states that lean Democratic. There are 13 states in this group, representing the final 121 electoral college points. If all these states do go to the Democrats, we will see the Dems sweep into the White House, ending Trumpism once and for all. But not so fast. Remember how the safe Democratic states included New Mexico, whereas the lean Trump states are mostly solid red states? Well, that's because these are not head-to-head polls that we're looking at. They're approval ratings. People don't always approve of the person that they vote for. If you voted in 2016, you know what I'm talking about. Very often, people are voting the least bad option. So just because someone doesn't like Trump doesn't mean that they'll like the Democrat any better. Take Utah, for instance. Trump's approval rating is low there, mainly driven by the fact that, well, Mormons hate the guy.
Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University.
But they also hated him back when Romney made that speech in 2016. but they still voted for him.
Boom!
With a net disapproval of just 2 points, this state is extremely vulnerable for Democrats. Victory there would be hard, it's redder than it looks.
That's what she said.
Gross. Virginia is another vulnerable state, as Trump's approval rating here is at -4. Not too hard to overcome that, especially if the Democrat running is very unpopular in Virginia. Then there's Maine, where Trump's net approval rating is at -6. If Trump wins all the red and pink states, and just these 3, he'll win in 2020. But there's also another state in serious contention here. In Pennsylvania, Trump's approval rating is also at just -6 points, which puts it very much in play. Representing a whopping 20 electoral college points, it can easily be an election game changer. Winning PA and any other of these gold states would spell electoral victory, as long as the candidate also holds on to the other states they are currently favored in. But with the election still so far away, you gotta ask, how likely is that?
Wow, he just
Wow,
shut me
he's
down.
totally shut
Bam!
me down. I didn't know he had
Wow,
that.
he knew that.
If I had known you had that, I would have fought so
Led
hard
with
at the
that.
beginning.
You never know.
Harry, okay.